Hey everyone, we
Hello.
are here today to talk about WandaVision. This is our first edition of Marvel Mondays, taking over from Mando Mondays. I like how that kind of just rolled into the next one there. So I am Mac, and then Becca is joining me
Hi,
this
everybody.
side. So, like I said, we're going to talk about WandaVision. Finally hit Disney Plus. Felt like we were waiting forever for it, and we got 2 episodes last week that debuted on Friday. So we will be here every Monday to recap the past episode, or in this case, episodes. So we are going to get into spoilers a little bit. So if you haven't watched those episodes yet, go and watch those first, and then come back and join us later. But before we get into last week's episodes, we do want to talk about the Marvel must-haves, that series that started today with new Marvel products that will be coming out in conjunction with every WandaVision episode. So Becca put together our list of the new Marvel products. So let's take a look at what we saw today.
Yeah, so of course, everything is themed to WandaVision, and this is a 52-week program that they're going to be doing. But yeah, I wanted to pull out some of the focus on some of the things we have. I really like these little bag clip characters that are themed to the first. Well, it looks like 3 episodes, and then there's some stuff that you can get customizable, like this iPad cover here with Wanda doing her little thing. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we've already seen. So the
Yeah,
shirts,
I was going to say the shirts looked like stuff we've seen before, for the most part, at least.
yes. And there's some of this is on Amazon, some of it is on Shop Disney, and there's also stuff on Hot Topic. This WandaVision, you can do a phone case, customizable phone case. So that's kind of fun and showing a couple different views of what that looks like. But Hot Topic has their entire collection on uh, available, and they've got a whole tab for that, or a whole section for that. But here's these figure characters again. They're 7.90 each, and I just thought they were fun.
And
And
those come in a mystery bag, right? So it's like one of those sort of try and collect them all sort of thing.
Mhm. You got that absolutely right. So you never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, there's some fun characters there.
I love the magic vision with the top hat.
Right? So fun. And her in her glamour costume.
Glamour, yeah.
And then, we already went over that. I really liked this shirt as well.
Oh yeah.
It's from the second episode, so the '60s look, but I just thought that was kind of fun, and it's a crop top, so you can use it with a lot of different styles. Oh, bigger photo. And then Zazzle has a bunch of customizable stuff, including, if I'm scrolling down here, some sword items. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's
That really caught me off guard when I saw that there is sword merchandise out. And we'll get into when we get into the episode a little bit more, we'll talk about sword. But I was really, really surprised to see that come out already.
I know. I was a little shocked too, but we have seen the logo twice now. So if you've
Mhm.
watched the show, then it's not really too spoilery. And
Right.
then I like this retro pattern again. So yeah, there's a lot to browse through, and of course the pop figures. But yeah, come on over to Laughing Place, and we'll have a link to this in the YouTube description box so that you can see everything for yourself.
Yeah, real quick on that sword merchandise. Do you have a closer picture so we can see the logo
Let me see if I
somewhere?
can zoom in here.
Yeah,
And how's that for you?
that's perfect. So you can see here that it says Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division. So I thought that was really interesting because they changed, and I did expect this to happen. They changed the name of the department here. So in the comics, it's Sentient World Observation and Response Department, and that they deal a lot with dealing with alien invasions and stuff like that. So they changed world to weapon, and I'm very curious to see how that impacts things. What exactly is this sentient weapon that they are observing?
Right. Right. The name kind of says it all. Well, I think that's all I've got for the merchandise for now.
Cool.
But
Yeah, definitely some stuff I need to pick up. I plan on adding a WandaVision shirt to my collection in the near future.
yes,
Um, so that is the merchandise that we got this week. But let's get into these first two episodes that debuted this past week. Um, First off, I want to get your initial thoughts on what you thought, as a whole. What were your initial reactions to WandaVision?
I really liked it. It was positive from the get-go, but I've been very excited for this show. So, since we knew it was coming, I'm like, this is something I'm definitely going to want to see. So, my expectations have been met. I I'm enjoying it. I like the lightheartedness of it, but I do feel like very sad for Wanda. Just there's something about it that I don't know. Like you obviously know something's wrong and it's just a matter of where that's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, you just know that characters in Marvel movies can't be happy for too long, right? Something's going to go wrong, and or Marvel TV shows in this case, I guess. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was obviously really looking forward to this, mostly because it was just the next Marvel project up. But I like how unique it is. I really like that they're taking their time to build this world, like you mentioned, the lightheartedness of these first two episodes. Obviously, there is some sort of dark, undertone to it. There's something lying beneath the surface here, and I'm excited to see how this plays out going forward. So the episode opens, and it throws you right into this sitcom world. Like there's no hesitation to it at all. What I love that they open with this classic sitcom theme song that we heard a little bit before the
Right.
episode debuted. But I thought that was really cool. I love the introduction. I love that the two episodes have two completely different introductions and different theme songs. So I really liked that they did that. Um,
I like that he's carrying her into the house, but then he just walks right through the door and she
yeah,
falls down. I thought that was funny that they played up that he's got that ability.
yeah. That was another thing too. This series caught me off guard with how funny it was. I didn't expect, I expected that sort of like cheesy old sitcom humor, but I think they really delivered it in like a very effective way. I found myself laughing out loud a lot throughout these first two episodes.
Yeah, we did too. And then I went and read some IMDb reviews. Not that I'm taking anything serious from that, but some people were complaining about it being kind of dumb. And I'm like, but part of what makes it funny is that you've seen these characters in very heavy dramatic situations. And so to have them in something completely silly, like that adds to the amusement of it. So if you're jumping into this without knowing anything about Wanda or Vision or the Infinity Saga, then yeah, it's not gonna be funny, but that's not who this is made for.
Yeah, no, totally agree. It is definitely very different from other projects. Uh, I thought it was kind of interesting too that they're in this sitcom world, and Wanda's accent is totally gone. So like she's Sokovian, right? So she has an
Yes.
accent in there, like throughout the entire MCU so far, but it's like she's put herself into American television. So I'm wondering if like did she grow up on American TV somehow, despite being in Sokovia? Like I don't know. I'm just curious to know if that plays out in any way.
Yeah, that's an interesting yes, very interesting observation. And then they even talk about her being from Sokovia. So
Yeah.
yeah, completely like it's gone.
One thing in the early going in the first episode here that I wanted to point out that I saw some people on the internet notice and point out. Um, Wanda refers to Vision's indestructible head. Uh,
Mhm.
if you saw Avengers: Infinity War, you know that is not true. Thanos simply uses three fingers to break through Vision's head and take the Mind Stone. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, and it's funny to see some of the things that people latch on to from everything that we watch from these two episodes. But
Right.
um, so it doesn't take any time at all to know that something is up. Like we mentioned, it's this funny sitcom world. Everything's lighthearted, but right off the bat, you know they don't entirely know what's going on when we see that they have an occasion marked on their calendar, and they don't know what it's for. They have no recollection of this date having any importance. So right away, you kind of feel like, okay, something is wrong here. And I like I said, I like that they are taking the time to build this up. They don't, jump right into things starting to go crazy, but they just subtle hints here and there.
Yeah,
So,
you're figuring it out along with them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a slow build to it as well. We quickly meet a very interesting character. This is Agnes, played by Kathryn Hahn, who is hilarious in everything she does. I love that they let her bring sort of her own humor to this while she still fits in perfectly with the classic sitcom character.
Yes.
Agnes, I think, and this is just my theory here, and I have seen that this theory is going around. Agnes, I think, is going to be a very important character going forward. So there's a character in the comics that deals with Wanda and Vision quite a bit. Her name is Agatha Harkness. So I think, you got Agnes right there. She is essentially a witch who helps Wanda explore her powers and figure out how to use them. She plays a big role in her abilities and her story. So there does seem to be something off about Agnes as compared to some of the other neighbors. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out, and if you had any thoughts about this character.
I don't know anything about Agatha Harkness, so I can't say anything to that. But yes, she's very interesting. I just keep thinking of Kathryn Hahn being in the Into the Spider-Verse, because wasn't
Yeah.
she Doc Ock? So she's kind of got this. She's played characters. I know, completely different movies, completely different series, but she can do that dark villainy bit. But um yeah, I found her very interesting, and I like how she keeps talking about her husband, but you never see anything.
Yeah, and there's some interesting thoughts on that too. Kyle points out that she is wearing a witch hat in the trailer. I believe that's going to be the Halloween episode that we see some of their costumes later on. So interesting. That could be a nice little nod to maybe she is Agatha Harkness, this witch character. I noticed in probably the fifth or sixth time I watched this episode earlier today, after Agnes leaves and Wanda is finally alone in her home for just a beat, she kind of sits back in her chair, and you can see here she has this look of like, everything here is perfect. Like, this is exactly how I want everything to be. And that kind of gives me the thought that she is controlling everything. She has built this reality for them, and everything is, perfect, like perfectly the way that she wants it. And I thought it was interesting just because it's just this one like quick throwaway little moment, but it kind of resonated with me. Like I said, I didn't notice it until about the fifth or sixth time I watched this episode.
Yeah, I've only watched both twice, but definitely going to give it a rewatch. I agree with you. I think you've got it.
And on that note too, how good is Elizabeth Olsen in this show? I mean, her facial reactions and everything, she's so perfect.
I was telling Kyle, I'm like, I can't believe my favorite Olsen is Elizabeth.
Yeah, definitely didn't see that coming like 20 years ago.
Well, I'm about the same age as Mary-Kate and Ashley, so I've kind of always liked them, but
Right.
mostly because you're like, "Oh, we could be friends." Now it's like, "Nope, your sister's your sister's amazing."
And she does such an awesome job of playing this character in a classic sitcom. Not the rest of the cast is fantastic as well. Paul Bettany does a great job, but for some reason, Elizabeth Olsen stands out to me. Like, she really, really fits this time period. And what's amazing, it's not one time period. Like, we start like in the 50s, move on to the 60s, and it's going to keep moving forward. So I'm interested to see how her performance progresses. But so far, she has just been so good.
Yes, I agree.
So we continue to see that something is wrong. They don't fully understand what's going on when we see Vision at work, and he, despite being very good at his job, has no idea what his job actually is. He asks a coworker about what they exactly do there, and nobody can seem to give him a straight answer. And obviously, again, sort of building another one of those moments where something's off. Like, we're not dealing with a real world situation here. They're clearly, in a different reality, more or less. And that moment leads to the classic sitcom misunderstanding moment where the wife thinks one thing is going on and the husband thinks another thing is going on. When we learn that Mr. Hart is the reason for their occasion on the calendar, and Vision's boss is coming to dinner. That's what Vision sees going on. And then Wanda is getting ready to celebrate their quote unquote anniversary when they don't even know what this is an anniversary of. So I thought it was really funny how much they leaned into a classic sitcom situation like that right off the bat.
Yes. Yes.
The next interesting point I wanted to talk about here, and this caught me off guard. I really like that they did this. They actually interrupt each episode with a commercial. And this first one was for the Stark Industries Toastmate 2000, which, by the way, feels like a missed opportunity. Why is it not the Toastmate 3000?
That's what I was listening to a podcast, and that's exactly what they were saying. They're like, why didn't they do that?
Couple interesting things about this commercial. One, when they fire up the toaster, it does have a very similar sound to like the Iron Man repulsor firing up. Okay. So if you missed that, go back and check that out because it's an unmistakable sound. I also thought it was interesting that part of this commercial is they're waiting for toast to be done, right? So, which, super interesting format for a commercial. Just wait for the toast to toast. But it's ticking. There's a ticking sound going in the background. And then they point out in this final image for the commercial here, forget the past, this is your future. So a lot of time elements to it. I don't really have a theory as to why that might be the case, but I thought it was really interesting that they put that together like that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting as well. I thought they were a little creepy, the commercials. Like there's something, I don't know, the way it's so like boring almost and like deadpan. I don't know. I had read some theories that it sounds like a bomb almost, like counting down, and that was the Stark bomb that didn't blow up when Wanda and Pietro, am I saying that right? When they were children. So, and that was a Stark product. So I've seen some tie into that. Like maybe,
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it that way. I put the connection together that, Wanda has a history with Stark, obviously, and seems to be kind of working through her history, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But that's interesting that the toaster could more or less represent the bomb, having Stark literally written on the side of it. That's an interesting theory. We touched a little bit on it before, and you just mentioned Pietro as well. They talk about Sokovia in this first episode, which I thought was very interesting. They don't mention throughout the MCU a whole lot about her being from Sokovia or, her, and they don't bring up Pietro a whole lot, which is, you have the only Avenger character up before Endgame that actually died. So they didn't really give him his due. But so, I thought it was interesting that they brought up Sokovia, made some very funny jokes about Sokovia. And again, Paul Bettany is hilarious in this episode, especially. I think they really did a good job with the comedy.
Yes, they did. They did.
And speaking of, there was again another moment I didn't notice until I watched, like the fifth or sixth time. Mr. Hart tells Vision, "You're awfully dense, aren't you, Vision?" And I thought that was really funny. Like in the moment, it's just it's a joke. He's making fun of him, but you're awfully dense. That's literally one of his superpowers, is controlling his density. I thought that was really funny. It took a while to hit me, but I thought that was a really good joke.
I think so too.
So we go through this hilarious scenario in which Wanda is trying to rush to prepare this huge multi-course meal. And eventually they do sit down to eat breakfast for dinner,
Mm-hmm.
which I have to. Another really funny scene is her trying to prepare the chicken and reversing time for eggs.
Too
Um,
much. Not enough.
yeah, again, really, really funny. But we get into sort of the climactic scene of this episode, which is Mr. Hart choking on his meal. And again, things seem to go completely wrong here. And this is the biggest moment in this episode where something is off, because Mrs. Hart is just kind of pounding the table and saying, stop it. But it transitions from, she's like she thinks Mr. Hart is joking or something and like is trying to get him to stop. And then all of a sudden it's trying to get something else entirely to stop. And I'm wondering what your thoughts were on this scene.
Like I said, I listened to a podcast and watched this twice. It was very bizarre. It was
Yeah.
very bizarre, and I was surprised that nobody got up to move. That while he's choking, even his wife is just like doesn't even seem phased by it, and Vision seems surprised, but then nobody's doing anything, and then Mrs. Hart looks right at Wanda, and she's like, "Stop it!" Yeah, like it seems like she knows some other level of I don't know that something's off in this reality more so than even Mr. Hart would or anybody else. I don't know, because it was interesting to me that she just directed her last stop it right at Wanda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Things really seem to break down in this scene, and you can really tell for sure that something is wrong here. So we talked about this a little bit on the Zacks of Life podcast, which will be coming later this week at some point. My theory with this is that Wanda, and there's a lot of theories that people have put together, and whether or not somebody is controlling Wanda, we'll get more into that in a little bit. But Wanda has created this reality, and the characters that populate it are more or less her subconscious. And she is kind of fighting with herself. She's, on one hand, putting this perfect reality together to perfectly suit her needs. But on the other hand, she knows this is wrong. This isn't supposed to be happening like this. So this is her telling herself to stop it and creating this situation that breaks this reality. And then at the same time, immediately jumping on getting Vision to stop that and fix this reality. So I think it's sort of the conflict within her. I could be completely wrong. We could see 100 different scenarios play out with this show. It's so out there that we could see literally anything. Mm-hmm. But that's where I think this is headed as of right now, at least.
I hope I'm not jumping too far. I also thought it was interesting that after Vision helps him, they get up to leave immediately. Like, dinner's over, they're done, they're going to go home. And then he turns to Vision and he's like, you made me very proud. We'll have a discussion on Monday about a promotion. And just like the instant switch from, well, maybe not even an instant switch, but I thought that was weird. Like, where did that come from? Does Wanda have some, I mean, if she's creating this reality, then of course, but did she plant that idea in his head? Is this just another version of herself and turning the situation as something more positive so that Vision isn't as suspicious? I don't know. Am I making any sense?
No, yeah, you absolutely are. And I agree. I actually think I would even go a step further. I don't think Vision exists in this reality either. I think that is also a part of her subconscious. And really, this is just her, again, conflicted with herself, but building this whole world out and trying to keep it perfect. And getting this Vision to do so. I, again, could be wrong. We could go a lot of different ways. We have another sort of theory here, mind controlled by Wanda's reality. Yeah, I mean, we could see a lot of different things here. Maybe these are real people that have been sucked into this reality. They could be her subconscious. They could be aliens. They might be Skrulls for all we know. Who knows?
That's true. Secret invasion. Wow.
Yeah. A lot of different scenarios at work here. And this was from the choking scene here. And you can see this is where Wanda really sort of broke that smile that she's had on this entire episode for the first time. And you really see the importance of this scene. The the episode then closes after their big happy, sitcom ending. We zoom out from the TV and we see the show within a show, right? We see that somebody is watching that show. And we don't know who this is. We don't know what exactly how they're watching this, but we do see the logo that we mentioned before, the S.W.O.R.D logo you can see on the computer screen right over here, and then on the notebook here as well. So that was sort of the big shock moment of this episode. That probably wasn't a big shock moment for people that aren't big comic book fans, huge Marvel nerds like me. But what did you think about this scene when you saw it?
I was just more confused than anything
Yeah.
because from what I thought going into the series was that we were just going to see Wanda in these different, well, Wanda and Vision in these different decades and figuring out a bigger mystery. Um, but that she's being observed, that was weird to me. Of course, I should have known that because in the trailers we've had the voice over the radio,
Right.
and you've seen other people in those trailers. So it's like, okay, I know there's something happening on the outside, but I this was really weird to me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a super weird moment, regardless of comic history or knowledge. I expected somebody to be on the outside of this and seeing what happens, but if she created this reality, how exactly are they watching it on this sort of old timey TV? I'm not sure how that's working out. I don't know how else I would expect them to monitor what's happening in there, but that seemed strange. I did think I went through and I looked for any Marvel connection to every name that came up in those credits. There wasn't much. I thought there might be some Easter eggs in there. One name, I think it was Abe Brown was the name, is a character that has appeared in the Spider-Man movies, but I doubt there's any connection. I think it's just, coincidence and the fact that there are millions of names in Marvel Universe that it could have connected to. So yeah, that wrapped up the first episode. And when I got that ending, obviously being a big comics nerd like I am, I got really excited. I was also confused like you, and very interested to see how S.W.O.R.D fits into this story, because again, it stands for, in the comics, the Sentient World Observation and Response Department. So why is this group that normally deals with aliens dealing with Wanda and whatever is happening here? So that definitely threw me for a loop. Definitely kind of maybe tossed out all my theories at first. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe this has something to do with aliens. Now it might be a little bit different. We're not sure. So any other thoughts on the first episode before we move on to the second one?
I just on the series, I love the end credits with the green, blue, and red colors. I was like, is this the inside of a TV? Is that what we're looking at? Because of
Oh, I didn't think of that.
and so at least that's where I'm going with it. I'm really enjoying the end credits, just watching that whole thing play out over and over again.
Yeah, that's really
I
cool. I did kind of piece together that it looks like it. I mean, it literally looks like a reality being built, but I didn't
Yeah.
put the colors together. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and then also kind of destroyed.
Yes, yeah, things seem to be falling apart as well.
So
Yeah, really interesting. And I mean, this is why I've watched this so many times already, because I mean, on top of the fact that it's incredibly entertaining, Marvel loves to just put so many little details just throughout and hide things. And that brings us to the second episode, which opened up with a different. Well, first we got an opening scene before they went into the intro music, which I thought was interesting, which again was really funny. Vision cowering under the comforter was hilarious. But they go into this sort of the Bewitched animated introduction, which I thought was really cool. Love the theme song. It's been stuck in my head for days now. You pointed out the beginning of this here. You see the moon and these 6 stars in the beginning of this introduction. What is your thought on this?
I thought they somehow resembled the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, I mean, If not, I mean, there's hardly ever coincidence in the MCU, right? Like they do things on purpose, and 6, spots around the moon. I mean, it just looks perfect. And obviously, the Infinity Stones played a huge role in Wanda and Vision's story. So yeah, I mean,
And
it
the
makes perfect
creation
sense.
of them too, right? Or like
Yeah.
well, I guess she's technically what, a mutant, but
Well,
uh
no, I guess legally we can say that now, but at the time, no, she was just a miracle.
okay.
I don't know where we stand on her, whether or not she's a mutant or not. If they sort of retcon her story, but yeah, her powers came from experiments with which actually was the Mind Stone. I'm not entirely sure how the Mind Stone would have given Quicksilver super speed, but so it came from experiments with the Mind Stone, and then the Mind Stone obviously is what keeps Vision alive. So yeah, the Infinity Stone's definitely an important piece of their story. Also, in this introduction, and this was such a crazy Easter egg. It's such a blink and you'll miss it moment. As Vision phases through the floor, you get this quick glimpse, just in between the floorboards there, of this weird looking helmet. And
Okay. I totally missed that, so I'm really glad you have this screenshot.
yeah, and I won't take credit for it. I did see other people find this first, but this was a challenge too, by the way, to pause on this moment because it's gone like that. Like it is really quick. So this helmet there might look familiar to comic book fans because it very much resembles this guy right here. This is Eric Williams, aka the Grim Reaper, a Marvel Comics villain who again plays a big role in Wanda's and Vision's story in the comics. Vision's brain in the comics is actually based off of a character named Wonder Man, who is Simon Williams, the brother of Eric Williams, the Grim Reaper here. So be very interested to see if we see Eric and or Simon Williams pop up in this series or stem from this series as their introduction into the MCU in some way. Grim Reaper is not a huge major character. His brother Wonder Man is a much more major character. And there was a tease in a featurette where the writer Jack Schaefer was talking about the series, and behind her, there's a bunch of character art on the wall, and most prominent is Wonder Man. So why would they have that there if not for some sort of tease? So I thought that was really interesting. A couple more Easter eggs still. There was a lot in this intro here. As you see Wanda in the grocery store, a couple interesting things with the signs behind her there. So you see Auntie A's. I already talked about Agatha Harkness, may or may not be Agnes. They refer to Agatha Harkness as Auntie Agatha or Aunt Agatha in the comics on several occasions. So Auntie A's, there you go. Bova milk also. This is where things get a little bit crazy with Marvel Comics. So Bova is a humanoid cow who served as the midwife that helped deliver Wanda and Pietro when they were born. So just a nice little nod to a character that we probably won't actually see in the MCU. I doubt we start seeing, humanoid cows pop up or playing a huge role in this story.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. There are some crazy characters that we have not gotten. I mean, it's funny because you almost can't rule anything out anymore because one of the most popular franchises within Marvel is centered on a talking raccoon and a sentient tree. So who knows? We might get Bova in the MCU. I don't know at this point, but it's interesting that they mentioned her there at least. So before we get to this, I did want to talk about the premise of this episode. Wanda is really stressing fitting in with this environment and getting everybody to accept them into this neighborhood within the story within the story. I feel like we're talking about Inception here. It's getting really crazy. But that makes sense because they have these superpowers. They want to just blend in as normal people. But for her, and coming off of what just happened at the end of the first episode, it could also be, I don't want this reality to crumble like that again. We need to stick within the guidelines and really fit into how perfect this whole world is. Do you have any thoughts on where this episode went as a whole, like the sort of premise of this episode here?
Um, Goodness gracious. No, I think you're. Yeah, yeah, it is a lot. I think you're right about, yeah, her stressing all of that. Yeah, it's interesting that it's also so. I mean, to me, that I don't know. We spent a whole episode on them, doing a magic show almost. I thought that was interesting too. That they're relying on, or that they're, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm running off in a bunch of different directions.
Well, listen, this show is going to do that to us nonstop because there's just so many different ways you can go with this show. So the first, and again, this episode, like the first one, gives you a lot of those moments, letting you know something is wrong here. And the first one is we get this helicopter that crashes into the rose bushes in their front yard, and Wanda picks it up, and once again, you can see the S.W.O.R.D logo on there. So this being the second time that we've seen it. We saw it twice in the same moment in the first episode, but so now we really can see, something is up here. They're starting to intrude on this reality. And also, obviously notably, the helicopter is in color, whereas everything is in black and white. I'm curious to know, because this moment sort of gets interrupted by Agnes. I'm curious to know, does she see it in color? Are the other characters seeing it? Or is it something they have to hide? I'm not sure.
That's
Did you
really.
that?
I hadn't even thought about that, but you bring up a really, really good point. Yeah, who is seeing this in color? Is it just her? Is it? Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Yeah, or why does, Agatha comes up at just the perfect time. Like, she's starting to figure, well, maybe not starting to figure it out, but she's processing, pondering, and immediately interrupted.
Yeah, she did show up right at the perfect moment there. I have to point out that I've instilled this theory on you now. You just referred to her as Agatha, not Agnes. So there you go. This is a real thing now.
Okay.
So yeah, fitting with my theory of the whole reality and those being her subconscious, she would probably be the only one seeing things in color as things start to crumble around her. But who knows? This could go a lot of different ways as well. I have to point out another Easter egg on the helicopter here. The number 57, Vision's first comic book appearance was in Avengers number 57. So again, nothing's coincidence with Marvel. They like to throw every possible little Easter egg in there. So that was really cool.
I initially thought this was going to be the Tony Stark reference just from the trailers because of the coloring. That's where my mind went. But obviously, as we can see, that's not at all what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the red and yellow, it looks like the Iron Man chopper or something like that.
Exactly.
And then in another moment that could just be a gag, or it could be another, sort of the reality crumbling. Agnes, as she walks up, says, "Look, it's the star of the show." Obviously pointing out she's talking about her rabbit, Senor Scratchy, which is a hilarious name. Which again, actually leads me to a theory that you pointed out that I'll get to in just a second. So she says, look at this, the star of the show, and you think like she's talking about Wanda because she is the star of this fake show that she's created. But and it catches Wanda off guard, throws her off, as if she realizes that that she is in this fake show, which is interesting. So I thought that was a really cool moment for again, a very split second. Like, it's just a quick little moment there.
Yeah, I've seen that brought up a couple times. Other people have had that same kind of, yeah, is this a reference to Wanda being the star of the show?
Right. So like I said, her rabbit is named Senor Scratchy. And you actually brought up a theory to me earlier. So Agatha Harkness has a son in the comics, and people are looking for a villain in this series. I personally don't think it needs one. I would love this to all just be, it's caused because of Wanda. Like, Wanda is the protagonist and the antagonist here. like I said, that internal struggle is really what this story is about. However, a lot of theories are out there about different villains that might be involved in this series. And Agatha Harkness has a son named Nicholas Scratch, who is a more or less an evil wizard. Thought that was interesting. Senor Scratchy,
Mhm.
a little bit of a connection there. I don't know. I'm not saying she turned her son into a rabbit or anything, but we could just be a subtle nod. We could end up seeing that character come up as the villain in the future. I don't know. What do you think? What would you like to see happen here? As far as, is there a villain or is there not?
Yeah, I'm really torn on that because I do think you're right that you can have Wanda as both the protagonist and the antagonist, and there's enough story to have her serve both roles. But part of me wants something to be happening to her just so that I can, I don't know, like, side with her more, if that makes sense. That, like, yeah, no, there's something that you actually need to fight against, whatever that is, instead of just a it internal struggle, but,
Yeah,
uh
no, that totally makes sense because I mean, that's your typical story structure, right? Like you've got your hero. We've grown to love this character for so
Mhm.
long. You don't want to believe that she is also the villain in this story. You want to root for her and have something else, something externally happening to her, as opposed to this being, she is both causing the problems and
Right.
dealing with them. I personally, being the comic nerd that I am, want it to just be her, but would also, and it's so counterintuitive for me because I usually am just like, all right, get more characters into the MCU. I want to see all of them. So I would like to see another exciting villain thrown in, but I'm rooting for it to just be her. Um, so we do meet another character in this episode, and that is Geraldine.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit of a spoiler just knowing like the casting of this and everything.
Right.
So Geraldine, played by Tiana Paris, who is credited as playing Monica Rambeau, the little girl from Captain Marvel, now grown up. We don't know what her involvement is, but here she is introducing herself, and she introduces herself to Wanda, but pauses as if she can't remember her name. Like again, she's being impacted by this reality. Um, so I thought that was an interesting moment. Clearly, she's different from the other people in this neighborhood.
Yes. Yeah, you can definitely sense that. Even Wanda senses it too.
Yeah, and obviously, Wanda is sort of drawn to her. They connect pretty immediately. So interesting to see her role and how this plays out. Didn't expect to be calling her Geraldine in the early going. Uh,
No.
I'm curious to see what Monica does going forward.
Mhm.
Um, this whole thing is taking place at a meeting of, I don't even know what you call this group. Basically, they're organizing a talent show for the children, which they made it a point to say several times throughout the episode. Um, did you have a thought on that before I
I
move
was
on?
just gonna say, you don't see any children.
Right. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
if these all these women, I mean, yeah, they could be at school, they could be playing, whatever, but nobody seems to have any children, but yeah, there's this benefit for the children.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Another symptom of this strange reality that has been built here. Um, so it is taking place at this meeting, and where she meets Dottie, who sort of runs the neighborhood more or less, and she is cleaning things up for Dottie when the radio starts to go haywire, and we start to hear a voice coming through that doesn't sound like it fits in this reality, asking Wanda, "Who is doing this to you?" Uh, that points at a villain, right? Like something seems to be wrong. Something seems to be happening to Wanda. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm not sure where they're going, how they play that off going forward, but another big moment of this reality breaking down.
well, and wasn't the song on the radio "Help Me Rhonda"? And I wondered if it had said Wanda, but kind of interesting if it's like, help me out, help me figure out how to help you, help me know what's going on, why
Yeah,
I don't know. It might be nothing, it might be absolutely nothing, but I thought that was an interesting song to be playing as well.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it, to be honest. I didn't think about it at all because I guess because we had seen this moment in the trailers, we knew the voice was going to come over the radio. I was just anticipating that. But that's funny. Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's very interesting. The voice, by the way, is Jimmy Woo. I guess he was FBI in Ant-Man and the Wasp when they were. He was the agent who was overseeing Scott Lang's house arrest. So interesting that he's involved. This voice coming in from the outside, we already know S.W.O.R.D is on the outside watching.
Mhm.
Do we think Jimmy Woo is now working with S.W.O.R.D, or is he on the outside of them and trying to contact Wanda?
Yeah, I've heard people speculating both, like, yeah, what is it actually?
Yeah, because I mean, he could have transitioned. We've seen characters move from like one government organization to another,
Mhm.
but I'm curious to know if he is working within S.W.O.R.D now. And if so, we know some other characters that are going to pop up, like Darcy from the Thor movies. Is she going to be involved with S.W.O.R.D, or I mean, she has obviously dealt with some extraterrestrial happenings. So very interesting to see if these characters are the first branch of S.W.O.R.D that we are getting to see in the MCU.
Yeah, I would think that that's probably what it is, just because it's almost too many layers to add to something that's already so layered, but it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's like we said, so many different ways this can go, and we might be watching a show within a show within a show before we know it. Um, so this whole moment with the radio happens, and again, a big catastrophic reality crumbling moment. And Dottie is at first she breaks the glass, cuts her hand, and she is at first sort of freaking out. But then everything goes back to normal, and just like that choking scene in the first episode, she kind of just snaps back into it, and just goes about her day again. So feels like the reality was corrected, and everyone can just go back about what they were doing.
Yeah.
We then break again for a commercial. This one for a Strucker watch,
Mhm.
and it's kind of interesting. Oh, here was the radio as well. I forgot to show you guys here. But kind of interesting that the Strucker watch, like when I heard the name Strucker, and I immediately, most big Marvel fans are going to remember, oh, Baron von Strucker, the Hydra agent that oversaw the experiments of Wanda and Pietro. But they went the step further and just straight up put the Hydra logo on the watch, making it blatantly obvious. So I think this, again, we're sort of transitioning through her history here, right? So we had the Stark one first. Now we've got Strucker and Hydra, again, where her powers came from. So it feels like these commercials are recapping her story. So it feels like she's creating them, pulling from her own memory. Any thoughts on that commercial? It was, again, like you mentioned earlier, like felt kind of weird and creepy.
Yes, yes. They both did. I guess I'm just wondering if there's someone doing this to her. Like, is she envisioning these commercials, or is somebody else kind of trying to break through? Does she know the commercials exist, or is that just for us, the viewers? I
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I don't know. Like, is she seeing them? I don't even know how she would be seeing them. Is she watching them on TV? I'm not sure, but it does feel like she's created them because it feels like it's pulling from her mind, which is really interesting. And I mean, Hydra could be behind this for all we know. We don't know. I mean, Hydra has still been pulling strings throughout the MCU, so you never really know. We then get into the hilarious intoxicated Vision magic show, which was probably my funniest, or my favorite hilarious moment of the first two episodes. And I wanted to point out, he does a card trick, and there's a character in Marvel Comics named Jack of Hearts that I thought they would reference in this moment. I was watching carefully, looking for every single card. His card was, I think, the King of Spades or something like that. And then the first one he showed was like the King of Diamonds. So Unfortunately, not a Jack of Hearts reference. I was very interested to see if they would do that, even if just as an Easter egg, if nothing else.
Right.
So they go through the whole show. Surprisingly, Dottie loved it, gave them the inaugural comedy show award. Vision and Wanda go back home, and they say several more times for the children. And there were a lot of theories about, I saw a lot of people talking about, like, what does that mean? Is that going to play some bigger role going forward? To me, I think it was putting it in Wanda's mind, she should have children. And then right after they say for the children, she turns around and she's pregnant.
Right.
And,
Right.
so very interesting moment. Wanda does have children in the comics, kind of. She does, then she doesn't, then she does. It's hard to follow because she can literally change reality on a whim. So she does have two children in the comics who go on to become heroes in their own right, named Wiccan and Speed, members of the Young Avengers. Wiccan just played a huge role in a major crossover comic event called Empire. So interesting to potentially get those two big characters in the MCU. Did you have any other thoughts on For the Children or the idea of Wanda having children?
Well, I know she's had, or that in the comics she has children, and we've seen her pregnant in the trailers, so I knew that was going to come up somewhere in here. But yeah, I think the idea, yes, hearing the children thing so many times was like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and add to this world with with a couple of kids.
Yeah, which would seemingly be the only two kids in the entire neighborhood, right? As you pointed out. Couple quick comments here. Yeah, the Stark, the Toastmate 2000 from the first commercial, the Stark Industries Toastmate, being a reference to probably Howard Stark, given the time period. But then eventually, yeah, Tony Stark and Iron Man. And then the woman in the commercial is creepy, assuming, actually, I mean, it could be for both of them, to be honest, because everyone in those commercials, like you said, is so stoic and just deadpan. So we get that reveal that Wanda is pregnant, and then the moment is spoiled quickly thereafter by a loud bang outside, and Vision and Wanda rush outside to see what's happening, and a beekeeper comes out of the sewer, a manhole cover lifts up, and he walks out. I'm not sure what the relevance of the bees is, but the beekeeper has a S.W.O.R.D logo, once again, on his back, as you can see. Oh, right. Here's Wanda being the reveal that Wanda is pregnant. But then we also get to see the beekeeper here, and you can see that S.W.O.R.D logo on his back. He very creepily crawls out of the sewer. I don't know that there's any way to crawl out of a sewer that wouldn't be creepy, but he really hams it up, and then dramatically turns quickly towards Wanda, and all she says is no. And I've seen everyone on the internet, this seems to be like their favorite moment right now. Everybody loves this moment of her just saying no. This incredibly powerful moment for her, right? Like this is where you realize she is definitely controlling this reality. Mm-hmm. She literally just rewinds the episode about 30 seconds.
Yep.
And we go back to a part where she was happy. So she's definitely controlling things and doing so to work into her best interest, to make herself happy and create this perfect world for herself. And I mean, just a really awesome, really cool moment that really shows how different this show is.
Yes.
And I won't go into it too much because I am an episode ahead still. I have seen the first 3 episodes and I don't want to spoil anything, but there's more really cool stuff coming. And I'm excited to get to see, first of all, to get to see it myself again, and for everyone else to get to see it as well. They rewind to the moment when they find out that Wanda is pregnant, and then the episode begins to transition to color, just kind of showing that we're going to continue to move forward in time from like the 50s, 60s. Now we're getting into the 70s with this with color television here. Really, really cool scene. I really like just visually how that worked out. I mean, I was really enjoying the black and white aspect of this show and the way that they were using color to show that something was wrong. But really cool transition to get into future episodes for sure. Any other thoughts on that second episode or just as a whole?
So I've been just thinking myself, like, where in the timeline does this take place? I'm thinking it's post Endgame, but I know that with Multiverse of Madness coming up, is this a possibility that we're looking at I mean, I'm assuming everything we've seen in the 616 timeline, am I correct with that?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's existing in here, but if we're gonna be multiverses, is this possible this is taking place somewhere else? And then I don't know. So that's what
Yeah.
I guess my question for you, where do you think in the timeline and universe this is?
Yeah, I would think so. Here, my thought is Wanda. The last we saw Wanda before this series started was in Avengers Endgame. We saw her talking with Hawkeye about how Hawkeye was saying he wished Black Widow could know they had won, and she says she knows they both do, referring to Vision. Obviously, she is going to be dealing with this fallout of everything that she lost. And she even points out to Thanos, you took everything from me. She lost everything. Her brother is dead. Her would-be husband is dead. She is probably going to go through some stuff dealing with that. And that's, to me, I think why she created this reality, this perfect reality for her to live in. I think this is off the heels of Endgame, to be honest. It may be a little bit down the road. We could be talking a year after. Given everything that's happened with the MCU being delayed and everything, we could be talking a couple years after now. But so that's my thought. Is it's still taking place in 616? I know with time travel being introduced in Endgame, and then another character coming, Kang the Conqueror, who deals a lot in time travel, and then we also have the multiverse with first I guess hinted at in Far From Home, but now the real multiverse coming with Doctor Strange, and we know that Wanda is going to be involved in that too. So this is kind of, people are going to start getting a taste of what it's like to try and follow comics. It is almost impossible, especially if you haven't been reading from the beginning and you're trying to catch up on things. This could be happening in a completely different universe. This could be happening actually in the 1950s, given time travel. We have no idea, really. It could be a lot of different things at play here. I'm excited to find out what is really going on for sure. I am interested to see if fans can hang on to all the questions that start to pile up, and are we going to get enough answers for the more casual Marvel fan to remain interested in this series going forward? I think yes, because the show itself is just wildly entertaining too. Right. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some people see this the opposite way.
I think there's gonna be I think fans will follow what they want to follow, and I think I hadn't seen every MCU movie in order prior to Phase 3. Then we watched everything, we saw everything in theaters for Phase 3. So I think that, yeah, you'll follow what you wanna follow, and then whenever you do jump in, there'll be enough information there so you get the gist of it. But yeah, I've wondered about that too, and I've wondered about how much I'm willing to commit to to following these storylines. But I think the next 3 that are coming, I'm definitely gonna be there for those.
Oh yeah, we are. I mean, I'm on board for anything. You could tell me they're gonna. I mean, it was rumored a while ago that they were gonna do a damage control show that was just about the people that clean up after the Avengers have a big fight. I would totally be on board for that. I'm going to watch every second of it. So yeah, I'm here for everything WandaVision gives us and everything Marvel gives us going forward. Any other final thoughts before we wrap up for today?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah. So join us every Monday for Marvel Mondays. We'll be recapping the latest episodes of WandaVision as well as the new Marvel must-haves. So you can come and spend all your money on all the new WandaVision merchandise. If you are interested in more than just WandaVision, although we will be talking some more WandaVision on Wednesday during Marvel time, but we'll also be talking about the latest comics and other Marvel news. So you can join us every Wednesday for Marvel Time. And then later tonight, we have the Laughing Place Movie Club at 7:30 Pacific Time, talking about the Ultimate Playlist of Noise, I think is the movie on tap for tonight. So yeah, join us for all of the fun things we have coming. Also, I have to mention again, Zacks of Life podcast, a new Marvel podcast from Laughing Place, featuring myself and then Kyle Burbank. So we'll be talking Marvel news, talking WandaVision on there as well too. Lots of WandaVision talk for sure, as well as some other fun Marvel stuff that you'll have to check out. So aside from that, we will see everyone next week. Becca, thanks for joining me and talking about WandaVision.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, and we'll do it all again in 7 days. All right. Bye.